Hi, Math 8 students. I am here with your third page of your review packet. And I just want to show you level one. I kind of gave you a little start as to subtracting. Remember, you might want to write down if the coefficients are the same, you are going to subtract. If the coefficients are different, if this was a 2 and this was a -2, then we would be adding. So same, we subtract different, or I should say not different, but opposite coefficients we're going to add. So those are a few little notes for level one. You should have plenty of notes to kind of look back on. I also included the key. I'm going to move on to level two step of elimination, and you see that you have 6 problems here. Many of them do not have the same coefficient. They are lined up, which is a good thing, but this has a 10x, this has a 5. So we could easily get this to be 10. And if this is 10 and this is 10, then since they are the same, we would be subtracting. I'm going to move on to number 4 and show you how to go about doing that. I'm just going to zoom in here just like I do at school. And so number 4, I have a -4 as a coefficient and a negative, remember this is a -1. I have a -15y and a 5y, and those are my coefficients. This is also lined up. So I don't have anything that is the same coefficient. I could definitely get this one to be a -4, or I could get this one to be a 15. That's kind of up to you which one you would like to go and decide to do. I'm going to make this -1 kind of like the -4. Now I have to decide, do I want it to be 4? And if they're opposite, adding, maybe adding is a little bit easier for you. Or do I want this to become a -4 and they're the same and then I have to subtract? I see that there's quite a few negatives, so I'm probably going to want to add, which means that I have to multiply. And when I multiply, I'm going to multiply everything by 4. But when I do this, 4 times -1 gives me the -4, and I didn't want to have the same because I didn't want to subtract, I wanted to add. So I'm going to multiply everything by -4. So I go -4 times -1x, that's positive 4x. -4 times 5y is going to be, careful, a -20y. And then I also need to do this -4 times a -13. So negative times negative is a positive, and that is 52. Now at this point, I'm going to lightly cross this out because this is what my new equation became. And I have a -4x and a positive 4x. Because they are the opposite, I'm going to add. I'm going to eliminate these right here. And I'm going to continue on, and I see that I'm going to kind of circle it as I deal with it. -15y plus -20y gives me a -35y. The equal sign stays. I deal with the -17. Again, plus 52 gives me a 35, a positive 35. Well, -35 times what is 35? Well, that is -1, because a negative times a negative will give me a positive. Now notice I am not done at this point. I only have one of the solutions. I still need to come up with x. So I can choose any one of the original equations. Because I crossed this one out, I might just take this one because I can actually see it better. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, okay, the -4 and then x. Do I know what x is? No, I don't, so I put the x. Then I look, I have -15. And then I look, y, do I know what y is? Oh, yes, I do know what y is. Y is -1. So I put -1 instead of the y at this point. I continue on. I have the equals, and I have the -17. So far I have -15 times -1 is a positive 15. I have -4x plus 15 equals -17. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. That cancels out. I get -4x equals a negative, and a negative is more negatives. That is 32. -4 times what is -32? That is going to be an 8. So there's my solution, but remember I write my solution as a solution point. I have my x and then I have my y. So my y was -1, what I first found out, and then my x was 8. This is the point where these two equations, if I was to graph them, would cross at this point. So you can need to continue on with 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 6 of the level 2 by making, again, the coefficients either the same for subtracting or opposite for adding. Adding seems to be a little bit easier, so you might want to make them the opposite. So I'm going to continue on with level 3. The video shows you that I posted a level 3. I'm also going to continue doing a level 3 for you. So if we continue on down here, we're still going to use the elimination method. And you can see that they are lined up, which is good. This is not, I cannot get a 3 to be a 5. I cannot get a 5 to be a 3. I cannot get a 9 to be a 4, or a 4 to be a 9. That means I'm going to have to multiply both of these equations. So I'm going to take a look and see, well, 5 and 3 both go into 15, so I'm probably going to be multiplying these. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 3, the whole entire thing. So 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 4y is 12y. The plus stays, the equal stays. 3 times -30 is -90. So I have created a new equation from this. Again, that's a y, not an x. Now, I still don't have the 3 is not a 15 yet. I can make it a 15 by multiplying by 5. If I do that, I'm going to get the exact same thing, and I'm going to have to subtract, which I can do, but I, again, have these negatives, which I don't like to deal with, so I'm going to multiply it by -5. So I'm going to move that over a little bit. So there's -5. So I go -5 times 3x is -15x. -5 times -9 is a positive 45y. -5 times a -18, again, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I get positive 90. And I'm going to cross that out because that became my new equation. So I have now the coefficient 15 and the coefficient -15. Because they are opposite, I am going to add, make sure I can definitely see that adding. And 15 plus -15 eliminates, that is 0. Then I continue on with 12y plus 45y gives me 2 and 5 is 7, 1 and 4, that's 57y. I know on the answer key that is a mistake. That should be 57y equals -90 plus 90 is 0. Can I have a 0? Absolutely. So 57 times what is 0? Well, that's easy. That is 0. Yes, one of your solutions can be 0. I only have one answer. I still need to have the other answer. So I go back into the equations. I can go back into the one I created, but they're pretty big numbers. So I might want to deal with a smaller equation. So I have 5x plus 4y equals -30. I look, the 5, I write down. The x, I don't know what x is, so I write that down. The plus stays. The 4 stays. The y, do I know what y is? Oh, I do. I do know what y is. Y is 0. So I put that in there. The equal sign stays. The -30 stays. So I look, I have 5x plus 0 equals -30. So 5 times what is -30? Well, 5 times -6 equals -30. So I write this as a solution point. I have my x, I have my y. So my x is -6, my y is 0, and that is my answer to the equation. The system of equations, this is where they cross if I was to graph these. Now, how do I check and make sure that this is right? I do need to plug them back in. So I go like this, 5 times -6 is -30. 4 times 0 is 0. -30 plus 0 is -30. Check, that one works. Next one, 3 times -6 is -18 minus the 0. So -18 equals -18. Check, it works out. So that's all you need to do. You need to do the next 2 and 3. So, and then correct your answers with the answer key that I gave you, and take a picture and post it as your submission, and then continue working on Alex for the remainder of the week and next week. Thank you very much.